Okay, I'm on my server Devel2, which is not being used anything right at the moment, I hope. And so I'm going to show, what I'm going to do is to show you the commands that I go through to upgrade a course. Now, I'm doing this kind of as a developer, so I'm doing this on a production machine, so I'm not using belt and suspenders safety methods. Danny will go through that this afternoon with some extra backup things, so just in case something goes wrong. So I'm at WeBWorK, and I want to update. And as I said, I'm going to do it in such a way that I can update and I can back out, but there are some extra methods you can make for saving everything ahead of time just in case something goes horribly wrong, and Danny will show you that this afternoon. But this works well enough for production servers, and it takes a little bit less time. So the first thing is to look at what we've got. Okay, so there's my WeBWorK 2, and I want to see what branch I'm on. So, a little bit of background. I'm going to be talking a lot about two things. One is called Git, which I'm going to do now, and one is called GitHub. Git is an application, a program, and it helps you to save lots of different versions of files. So, in some sense, like in the old days before Git was available, what you did was, I did version 1, I would be programming, and I would write, okay, version 1. And then when I got to a stopping point and I would make a copy of it, label it version 2, and develop in version 2, and then I develop in version 3. Version 1, version 2, all of those directories just sat around on my disk. If I was lucky, I remembered to get rid of them eventually. Git does the same thing, except that it's all hidden from me. So it has a version 1 of my work, it has a version 2 of my work, a version 3 of my work. What's more, it doesn't completely copy the files, it just copies the differences, so it saves lots of space. It also hides all that information from me, so it looks like I just have a single file with different versions of it, which we call branches, available to it. So this is actually three different directories of, three different directories, Devel3, Develop, and Master of WeBWorK is sitting right here. I only have access to the master version right at the moment. If I switch over to Develop, it'll be the same directory as far as I can tell, but Git has magically switched the connections behind the scenes so that I'm actually looking at the Develop version, which has got all kinds of new features and so on, instead of the master's version. Are there questions about that? So Git is managing a lot of relatively equivalent copies of a single program, and it's managing it very efficiently behind the scenes. Where does it store the differences? I don't know. That's its secret. So that's the whole point, is that I can't get at these directly. I can't ruin anything by trying to, well, if I knew enough about Git, perhaps I could, but I can't ruin anything. And the .git folders tell me information that's needed. Okay, so the .git directory is the magic thing that tells you what to do. But this is actually not information that you want to know, I think. What you want to know is that there are actually a lot of different versions of the same program floating around. And when you back up the machine, you have to know what to save. Everything gets saved automatically. That .git folder tells you what to save. For that matter, if you are looking at this thing with an editor, like I use BBEdit on the Mac, if you look at this thing with the editor, and if I switch versions, what appears in the editor suddenly switches. It's all done magically for you. Despite the fact that it is actually saving different copies of this, but you don't need to worry about the details about how this stuff is saved. Here's one of the commands I want to use. First of all, this has told me what branches I've got. I've got 3 branches, the Devel3 for WeBWorK 3, the Develop version, and the Master version. So I'm not actually doing development on this machine, so I have a relatively few number of branches. So if I want a little bit more information, I can say git branch -v or -vv, and it gives me a little bit more information. This tells me what the status is of each of these branches. Devel3 is connected to, now Origin is this is where GitHub comes in. Origin is a synonym that I've used for the GitHub/Open WeBWorK site, and we'll talk about that later. And there is a WW3 repository there, or branch there in the repository, and this is a version of it, except that I haven't updated it recently, so I'm behind 498 commits. Peter's been very busy. With develop, I'm up to date. The last thing I did was to merge and assign all bugs from Jeff. And on master, I'm a little bit behind, so I'm going to update that right now. Let me show you another way of seeing the same information. Git status. Again, notice I'm on the branch master. I'm behind by 11 commits. The fast-forwarded business means that it's really simple to upgrade. There's no, it's a one-line, a single line of just adding these commits one after another. There's no internal branching in the tree. And there's a couple of untracked files. So Kappa Graphics is a local file that it's not part of Git. It's not being saved. It's not being used. It's not being updated. Your site.conf and your all of your config files that you're actually using, you do not want those to be updated from Open WeBWorK. They would overwrite all of your local changes. So those should all be untracked files. Okay, so I want to update this. So what I want to do is, the simple thing to do is to do git pull. This is not going to work, by the way, because I need to have sudo privileges. So let's just see what goes wrong. Okay, that's what goes wrong. See, you can't get at this file, which I've made it so that you have to have sudo privileges to open that file to see what's to run Git. So now let's try. And it's now downloading the 11 changes that have been made to master. And here I can see what's happened. There were some changes to the overrides. There were some changes to this file, those files all had, it wasn't a huge change, little minor changes. And now if I do git status, I'm up to date. Now, by the way, I haven't restarted the machine, so of course none of these changes have taken effect. So this is actually maybe the first thing I should have said. Let's look at git branch, and so this is going, the commands are historical, and so branch all by itself simply means show all the branches that are available. And then it does some other things that aren't just show. But let's look at all the branches that are available. And these are the branches that you saw before, but then there's a whole bunch of remote branches it's keeping track of. So, for example, these are Gala, these are Jeff's repository on GitHub. These are mine, MG's. Origin is the Open WeBWorK, and these are Peter Staub's. These are all of the different branches that are available by the people who are developing that I'm linked to, that I'm following. So these don't update themselves automatically. So one thing that's worth doing is to do git fetch, and I need to be sudo git fetch, and that will update all the pointers that I have to these remote repositories. Okay, and I guess not much happened. This was actually fairly up to date. But you need to do sudo git fetch from time to time to just make sure that these things are all up to date. Okay, now we want to see how to switch branches. So let's do that. Just remind myself of which branches are available. And so I'd like to switch to develop, which is what I was on before anyway. And so I will do sudo git checkout. Checkout means switch. That's what it means for historical reasons. So sudo git checkout will switch me to develop. Okay? So now and if I do git branch again, now I'm on the develop branch, and I haven't been updating develop recently, so I'm way behind on develop. I won't do that right at the moment. I will do git checkout back to master. Oops. And there I am at master again. Okay. Now I'm going to do the same thing to PG. There I have the develop and the master and a couple of other branches. There's lots of other branches that I can pull from if I want to. I'm going to switch this over to the master. Okay, and I'm up to date with that. Now, again, I haven't done reload yet, so none of these things have actually taken effect. Updating stuff from Git is really very smooth. It's really quite easy. Git itself has zillions and zillions of different objects, and so understanding all of Git it's like understanding all of tech, or maybe worse. But I've given you a bunch of the commands that you need. Let's see. Here's another one. So this is probably out of date, and this one I do more often than others. Okay, so there's only one branch here. There's no development branch, really. Let's see what the status is. Okay, and it's up to date on that. Actually, I'm sorry, all of these are up to date. Let me see if I can get one. Okay, so this is on my local machine, and I'm behind. I'm on the master branch. I'm behind by 13 commits, so I want to update this, but I want to update it really cautiously because I'd like to, I want to be able to back out really easily. There are several ways to back out, but I want to be able to back out really easily. So what I'm going to do is the following. I'm going to git checkout. The -B means I'm going to check out to a brand new branch. So I'm actually going to create a branch and check out to it. And I'll call it, say, master temp to indicate that I'm temporarily moved the updating master, but not permanently. Okay, so I'm going to type this command, git checkout -B. That may not be on my list there, so you may want to make a note. Okay, let's look at what git branch looks like. So you see there's two branches, and I switched to the master temp. The master temp at the moment is identical to master, so let's look at its status. Okay. Now, what I want to do is I want to update this from master. So I'm going to do the following. I'm going to say git pull. That updates, but this one's not tracking anything, so I have to explicitly tell it which branch to go to. So it's at origin. That's the open WeBWorK, and master. So when I just did git pull before, it added the origin and master automatically for me, but now I'm on a brand new branch and I haven't set it up as a tracking branch, so I have to tell it exactly the name of the repo that I want and the master. I'll tell you how origin knows which address to go to in a minute. Okay, so I'm now just updated. And so let's look at the branches here. So I've updated with all of these new courses and so on have been updated. I'm on master temp. Let's say I want to go back, and maybe there's an error on this, and I want to see if the error was there in master also. So I can go back, git checkout master. Okay, so now I'm on the master branch, and I've just undone all the changes that I did to those problem sets. And I can go back and forth between these two, and I say, the Venn B7, was it right? Was it wrong in master, and was it, or is it, did it get fixed in the new updates, or did it get broken in the new updates? So I can use this kind of method to temporarily download something, and then I can go back to master. And let's suppose I decide that master temp is not for me. I want to stick with master. These new updates are they're not quite ready for prime time yet. So first of all, I can just leave master temp around, but eventually you want to get rid of these things. So git branch -d will get rid of them. Now you'll see an error in just a second. I'll explain it. Git branch -d master temp is going to get rid of that excess branch that I didn't need. It notices that master_temp has extra information that's not in master, and it says, do you really want to get rid of this? And the answer is yes, I really do want to get rid of this because this new information was not ready for prime time, and I'm not gonna, I don't want it around. So I'm going to use the capital D to get rid of it. And there we go. So this is really quite a good way to update something. You do git checkout -b, create yourself a new temporary branch, download things, do whatever you want to it, and then when you're tired, you go back to the original branch you were on, delete the new branch that you're experimenting with. And git takes care of all of this stuff behind the scenes. If you did it manually, you would have to create all kinds of backup files and so on and so forth. Jeff has a good way of setting up a tracking branch. This will also set up a tracking branch. There's lots of ways to do things in git branch, master, temp. This is pretty similar to what Jeff was just showing you, except that it's a kind of a two-phase type of thing. So this has set up the new branch but hasn't switched to it. The checkout command with the -b and all the extra information also makes you switch to it immediately. Again, you will find this Git really has lots of different alternatives for things, and that's part of what can make it confusing. And you don't need to learn, fortunately, you don't need to learn all of it in order to do it. And by the way, this time, if I do cd master temp, sorry, I didn't mean that. I meant that, okay? Yes, and so when I made this track master, it actually automatically did a pull request and made this thing to be up to date with master, okay, with the newest master. So it's ahead of the old master. This might help. So this is a program called SourceTree, which is available on Macs and on Windows and so on. And what we were just looking at, the library is fairly straightforward. So if I'm on master temp here, you can see that the master temp and origin and head and so on, these are all identical with each other. Here's where master is, and it's several commits behind the latest changes that were made to the library. So each of these things says, you know, update, use more PGML, and the code, this is all updating problems, remove dead. Every time something was fixed and committed, these are all very granular. You can check and see what change was made at every stage. And sometimes these were done by, say, these were done by David J. Hunter separately, and he did a bunch of changes. He branched off from the main library way back here, and then he committed all of his changes as a pull request. And they were pulled in by John Jones, who checked all his changes and said, yep, those changes are all good. We will put them into the main library. So this is a particularly nice graphic for seeing the kinds of things that are happening. Let me show you a more complicated one. This is what WeBWorK 2 looks like. And just so you can see the kind of development that goes on, this is more interesting if you start actually helping out with development, and we'd love to see that. So here's Origin WeBWorK 3. That's the branch has been changed the most recently. This is a branch on Jeff's machine with certain tweaks, which he hasn't yet committed back to the main source. This is the JITAR branch that Jeff is working on that really should get pulled in soon, but I'm not going to be able to do it this week, so we'll see when it gets pulled in, but it should be available for the next development. Here's where Origin Develop is back here, and there have been some changes that have been, these are changes that I've made locally on my machine, these little red dots going up here, and I haven't yet submitted to them to the Origin Develop main repo. Okay, so I can look at this thing and I can see the different types of development that are being done on different branches, and when something like this, okay, everything was working fine here finally, and so Peter merged this into his main WW3 branch. Eventually these dots here and here will be merged into the very top here, and they will be merged into the main branch. We'll see other graphical versions of this, but this is a particularly nice one. Unfortunately, it's not available for Linux as far as I know. So the main things that we've been doing is checking out and doing branch and so on. I was using this Origin thing a bunch, so let's see what that is. Let's see where, oh, I'm sorry, wrong machine. So you notice these things like Gela and Peter Staub and so on that tell me where was the last merger done from, and how do you get to these abbreviations for the various remote repositories? Well, get remote -v tells you that, and so you can see that my aliases are Gela stands for this WeBWorK address. Usually that should end with webwork2.git, but Git's forgiving about that. Mgage, that's my repo on GitHub. This is the main one, Open WeBWorK, and this is Peter Staub's. So these are the people that I work with a lot in terms of development, and so I've just made aliases for them. You can make aliases with git remote add, but of course you're not going to remember it, so actually you might remember this much. Notice that there are 2 dashes before help, and then you can try and puzzle out what you're supposed to do. There are also, if you Google for Git help on the web, you'll have lots and lots of pages. Okay, so here's what I want to do now. I'll do this in PG since it's a little bit less complicated. PG tends to be easier to update and so on and so forth. Let's see what branch I'm on. Let's suppose that I've updated to master and I'm not happy with it and I would like to back out to the previous version. So if I do git tag, that tells me a whole bunch of what tags are like. So here's the tag structure that we've got. And in fact, there's an error in this thing. Jeff will fix it. But when we release 2.9, we tag it with PG 2.9. And then when we release 2.10, we tag just before we release 2.10 and merge it into master. We give a tag there that's called 2.9 plus 1. And then PG 2.10 is the absolute next node. And so if I wanted to back out of 2.10, which is where I am at the moment, to 2.9, I don't want to go back all to 2.9 because I'll miss the hot fixes that came in while 2.9 was active during that year. I want to go back to 2.9 plus. Let me see. Do I have a good... You can kind of see what this is like. Let me do it on the PG. See, this one shows you all of the tags right here. Okay, so this PG10, that is at right at this point. There's been quite a lot of development since then. And if I go to 9 plus, that should be just a little bit. Now I'm a little surprised that there's so much difference between that and 210. Normally that, but oh no, that's right. So this is what it looked like just before we merged 210, and when we merged to 210, all of these commits got made, and this is the beginning of 210. And there's no end to 210 yet because we haven't yet released 211. Is that clear what the tagline looks like? All right, so that's looking at it with a nice graphics. You have to, on the command line on Unix, you have to do it, you just have to imagine that. But let's suppose that I wanted to go back to, say, 2.6. Okay, so what I can do is I can git checkout. You can probably do this in one command, but I'm going to do it in several here. Okay, so I'm going to go back in time, and I want that version of the software. All right, so it looks like a slightly the scary message here. I've got an attached head and so on and so forth. This just means that I haven't actually created a branch for this thing. So if I want to create a new branch, I use checkout with a new name. So just right now, I'll say git checkout -b, and I'm going to call this pg-26. I'll put the plus in too, just to remind myself, but that's exactly what it was. Okay, so that's my, I need to use get permission. Does everyone have a sudo t-shirt? Check out xkcd and sudo, very famous t-shirt. Okay. Okay, so you can see now I have a branch pg-26 plus that I just created. The pg-2.6 is one that I created yesterday when I was doing experiments. Let's see, I should be able to get rid of that with a small d, because the thing that I've got now, the pg-26, is got everything that the one I'm trying to delete does and more. And so it deleted it automatically. It didn't ask me, give me any warnings or anything like that, because it really isn't necessary. All of the information that was in the branch I just deleted is in the branch that I'm on right at the moment. And so now if I do a reload, restart, then I will be using this version of PG and not the other version that I had before. So you can move up and back really quite, once you get a little bit familiar with Git, you can move forwards and back really quite easily and fairly safely without having to make huge backups. And particularly for development, that's adequate. I'm not sure if I've completely trusted it yet for production machines. So rather than keep lots and lots of different branches around 2.6, 2.6 plus, and all those things, it was getting very confusing and very difficult to keep track of things, and so we just demoted those things to tags. But you can get at them and create your own branch version, attach a branch to those tags anytime that you want. So let me show you the other side of this. Just remind you, the remotes here, I've given shortcut names so that I don't have to type in the whole thing, although I can type in the whole thing if I want to. But origin, I want to go look at this site here and see what it is that's happening up there. So, GitHub Open WeBWorK. Let's take a look at what's been happening in WeBWorK 2. This is what the whole file structure looks like. And this is branch master, but I'm more interested in what's happening with develop, where there are more interesting things going on. So this is the version that's developed. Now, I said there was a difference between Git and GitHub. GitHub uses Git as one of its applications, although it could also use Mercury, and there's various other applications that could be used instead of Git. But what GitHub is a website, and it's trying to be kind of like the central repository for all open source development. There's a couple of competitors, Bitbucket and various things like that, but GitHub is probably the biggest. And what it allows us to do is this Open WeBWorK is a central repository that Jeff and I and JT, all the people who are doing development, we all make our own developments and then submit them for inspection by each other and to be pulled into this repository. So on the side over here, you'll see pull requests, and I'm going to walk you through those. So here is some changes that Jeff committed a few days ago, 8 days ago, and they're awaiting inspection by somebody, mostly me probably, or someone else, and he's described what he's done. One of the things that he's done, let's see, he runs check modules. Jeff, is this the one where you disabled course.conf? Anyway, this is a list of the changes that he made. Here's the actual changes that he made on each one. So, for example, in this one, that was the change in the file. He got rid of return 0 and he returned something else. So you can see exactly what was changed. David Servone made some comments and removed an unintended change. Here's some more comments from Jeff. So the point is that and you won't see this merge pull request and so on. I'm one of the developers, so I have powers to do this kind of stuff. But I can read this and decide whether or not this is worthy of being pulled into the main repository. And often these things will sit here for weeks or for several weeks while there'll be long lists of discussions about this is a good change, no, this isn't a good change, no, you've got to add this, and so on and so forth. And then finally, when the dust settles and everyone's agreed, so one of the people with the privileges on this site will do a merge pull request, and all of these changes will be put into, in this case, into the develop branch, where people who are using develop can see them and test them some more. And then about once or twice a year, we take the develop branch and we merge that into the master branch, and you get a new release. So that's how a new release is made. Again, you will see, you as just observers can look at all of these things and see what's changing. So for example, there are changes being made to the LTI. You can see just description of them, various comments by people about what's happening. Let's look up at the top. This is being, the place where this is happening is on Jeff's site, LTI UPS updates. And it's being submitted to the develop branch of WeBWorK. Let's go look at Jeff's site for just a second. Okay, so here's his WeBWorK 2, and the branches that he has lots of branches because he's been developing things and so on. And this one was LTI UPS. And so here is, this is the new code that he's developed to fix LTI problems. And what he did was to create a pull request. I can't do it because it's not my, maybe I can't do it, okay. This is how he created that pull request. He said, I'm all set to go. I want to notify the people at WeBWorK 2 that I've got lots of changes that they should look at, and if they agree, they should pull it into my software repository. Okay? So I'm not going to, and that's what he did in order to create that pull request that we were looking at a few minutes ago. I don't know if you remember that cycle that we had on the first day, but people develop on their laptops, and then when they're ready to display it to the world, they put it up to their own GitHub. And then when that allows other people to look at it, and when they think it's ready, or even if they think it's kind of ready, worth being reviewed, they submit it as a pull request to WeBWorK. So by looking at the pull request here, you can see what's coming up. And if there are lots of outstanding pull requests with bugs that you want fixed and so on, you might want to wait for a little bit. The other thing that's possible, for example, let's look at these tweaks. I will just describe this. Well, maybe I could do it. Okay, that was on WeBWorK. That was on WeBWorK 2. The same thing's true with PG. You just have to switch to those directories and to those repositories. Okay, let's suppose that I wanted to add just tweaks. Okay, so I am currently, let's do that. I'm on develop. I'm going to create a safety branch. Develop temp. I'm going to use it to track Jeff's files. So this is Gala tweaks. Okay, so I'm going to add the new developments that he's made to my version of develop temp. I don't want to pollute my old version of develop. I want to do this on a new branch, which I can destroy if things go wrong. Okay, so this does not exist. Let me try. I said I had to refresh my connection to Jeff's site, so now you can see tweaks does exist. And now, okay, so this should work. Except that I need to do sudo. It's probably because I tended to create these things as root, and so the .git file has root privileges. Okay, let's see what the branches are like. All right, and now I can git check out. Okay. And so now I'm working with a system which has all of Jeff's latest updates, and I can see whether that helped or hurt the situation. When I get tired of doing that, I can get back to the original. Okay. Now, okay. I might add that one thing that is easy to forget is to restart the server after you've done any changes, because most of the changes require restarting before they will take effect. Some of the PG changes don't, but that's